Parry Talks, welcome back. Episode 50 something. Don't even know anymore. My life is an absolute shambles. At 52?
Yeah.
Damn, man, man's done more research than me on his own episode. Um, I guess today is one of my favorite artists in Australia right now. He's been quoted to blend hip hop, experimental rock, and electronica to create his own very distinct sound. He's just released his new EP. It's all happening somewhere else. DoloRRes, if that's even how to say it. How are you, man?
That's pretty accurate. Yeah. Hi. Hello. How are you?
Are you happy with DoloRRes?
It's
Or
well. I mean, you're close. I pronounce it as DoloRRes, but
oh,
like that could just be my lisp or something.
no, but the double R makes sense with the res.
Yeah. I'm actually interested. Like if I like ever when I go back to Italy, I'm like, how am I gonna start like pronouncing it? So kind of I might do it like Spanish. That might be the closest delineation.
Well, you were born in Rome, now living in Melbourne. How hyped were
Yes. Correct.
you when you shut up all the all the fake British people in Australia when Italy beat England in the Euros?
Um, I wasn't very confrontational with anyone. Although my brother Jasper, he's English, big English soccer supporter. So obviously that was like the extent of my banter. Uh, but I got up at 5 a.m. I went to like my dad's like friend's house. They're all like 40-year-old Italian like migrants, just like in Brunswick. And so I just pulled up to their house like 5 a.m. It was like a bunch of those dudes, like some of their kids. They were like making pizza. So I was just eating that like in like the living room. A
That's
bunch of people with like flags dancing around. It was
it's the beauty of nationalism right there.
exactly, yeah. It was the right kind of national or patriotism.
Not nationalism, yeah. Don't
No, no.
co-sign nationalism. Um, I and to start this off, I can see on the gram that you worked in a call center as well, and I did
I
that
did.
for I did that for a year and a half as well. So you already know this conversation is going to be hectic. Like people that work in call centers know how to talk. This is something it just wires your brain different.
Literally. I got audited yesterday. I was chilling. I got work tomorrow.
And he even peaks it. Well, I think started off on a big question.
Yeah.
There's so much going on with the way that music has changed in the world at the moment, and I'm not likening you to these artists at all because I know you probably get this all the time. But if you think of people
Yeah.
like Brockhampton, like Tyler the Creator, like Slow Tie, they're really pushing the boundaries of what it means to be a rapper. You know, how much easier do you think it's been for you to
Yeah.
find your craft, having seen these rappers come through and break the sound?
Mm. Um, well, I mean, probably like a lot because uh I mean, like with the artists you mentioned, like Tyler the Creator was probably like the first artist I was like a big fan of. Like the first artist I actually listened to like their whole discography, got like obsessed with, Odd Future 2012, etc. Um Brockhampton as well. When they like first came out, I was super into them. Like I bit a lot of shit from them, bought tons of stuff from Tyler the Creator. When I first found out about Slow Tie, I literally like for like a whole year I made like grime. You've like it doesn't exist anymore on the internet. But I literally like I just like there was like a British accent and everything. It was cringe. But like I was like obsessed with Slow Tie for like 2 years. Um so yeah, these are all artists who have like sort of trailblazing for me, I suppose. But I mean, at the moment, like now that I'm even like expanding my genres even like further past uh just like rap music, like rap in general, but still keeping those sort of elements involved. People like sort of Gene Dawson and Genesis Owusu, uh who else? Maybe Junior Varsity kind of. I don't know, mostly LA. It seems like there's like a new wave of like indie and like punk and rock. Rock music is kind of resurfacing in the last few years, especially in Los Angeles. I notice.
Definitely.
So get a lot of inspiration in terms of like contemporary artists who are changing like the game.
Yeah. Are you across Turnstile?
No, what's that?
They're sick. They're this band from I don't even know somewhere in America, but like super like skate aesthetic. but they make rock music,
Mm,
and like rock, I don't know, rock music has never connected for me for some reason, like locally, internationally. But there's something about them, Turnstile, they're crazy. They just like, it's just, they've got singles with Blood Orange, like it's just different. And like, I'm sure they're a part of that changing like idea of what
yeah,
rock music has to look or sound like from an aesthetic point of view.
yeah.
Um,
Obsessed.
you already spoke about sort of your making grime songs for a year and stuff like that. How long did you commit?
Yeah.
How long did you commit to just experimenting and finding your sound? And then, how long did it take you to be like, this music actually sounds like me now? I'm comfortable with this sort of music that I'm making.
Um, I reckon like the comfort probably started in like mid like 2020, probably when like Fluffy Dice came out, obviously. But like there's like probably half a decade worth of music before that single. Shit that I was just putting out on SoundCloud or Bandcamp under like a variety of aliases in high school. Um, and so I don't know. I've just had this like sort of like impulse to do literally everything. So I can't not. It's quite exhausting, but like I have to like essentially just like have done or have tried every possible like thing there is. So I would just like have like 7 different artist names, and each one would be like a different genre. And I'd put out like an album per artist up on my Bandcamp page. So I had like 12 albums worth of like different genres of music. All of it not very good, but like all different genres. So like there was like beats, there was like hip hop, like instrumentals, like noise music, ambient music. There's like 2 Memphis like rap tapes, um, like some rock, like Kimya Dawson, like sad boy kind of acoustic music. All shit from like when I was a teenager. But the problem is that like I was like biting all these like one sounds individually, so it means I was just kind of like doing my version of like someone else's sound. And then eventually I guess over time my taste in music and like my awareness of music got so big that I was pulling from like so many artists that it just became like one sound and one soup.
Beautiful. I feel like, and on that as well, I like
Yeah.
to ask this to people, and you can take this any way you want,
Mm,
but just what do you think generally of the term rapper for an artist like you? Like,
mm,
obviously, you do rap and there are elements of rap, but it's
yeah.
different. Do you feel like you own it and like be a rapper and then push the boundaries of what it means to be a rapper? Or is it more like, I hate that term, I'm not a fan of it, I'm just an artist?
I don't hate that term. I don't mind that term as much as I mind any other like label that anyone would put on me. It's all just like transparent. I'm not bothered. Uh, but yeah, I don't mind. Like, I'm not surprised. Like, the majority of the music that I have out right now is rap music. So, like, I'm not, But I mean, I probably wouldn't be considered a rapper in the next like 5 years. You know what I mean? Like, it just depends how your sound changes.
Yeah, I think it's just like such a weird, touchy talking point for people in Australia now. I think just with the way rap music is being pushed in Australia, I think it's like it's getting so much bigger, but at the same time, like so much learning needs to be done by the Australian consumer about like how diverse rap music is. Because then anything that comes out that's weird and different, people like Brockhampton esque, and it's like
Mhm.
it's super interesting the dynamics of that. So I feel like some artists would be rejecting it a lot.
True, no shit. Yeah, well, I mean, like Australian rap music has only really started being good in the last 5 years, no cap. So, like, I mean, where am I going with this? Um,
It's just changed.
yeah, it's just like so it's just like better in the last 5 years because it's being like made. There's like a new generation of artists, etc. So I think like all the people who are my contemporaries, whoever's in the scene, there's like 100 people I could name. They all started like putting out music in the last 5 years, and now there's like a new wave of Australian hip hop that doesn't just sound like, you know, I mean, Nosebleedception is a fun song, but like
Yeah, I
Jesus
know.
Christ. So this is like it's like for the first time like Australian like rap music actually has like a scene, actually has like different subgenres. There's actually like different, there's people like actually putting into it, and it's actually being made like multicultural, all the different parts of the city. So for like, the people who are actually meant to be making the music are actually making it. I wonder why it sounds good. You know what I mean?
Exactly. No, I'm not gonna like that is the 100% difference. I think it's like
Yeah.
people from different backgrounds are making hip hop in its like actual with its like main ethos at the front of it. And like you can say whatever you want about the music, but like the new BY's album that came out on Friday is like
Mm-hmm.
this might be like it's like one of Australia's, and the music he was making is like one of Australia's first like true hip hop albums. And it's like it's so revolutionary where it's like someone of like African descent is like making an album about his actual experiences in Australia, and it's like that is so rare. It like literally never existed before an artist like him. So like it's no surprise that so quickly with the internet and stuff that other artists are popping up well on the left side of hip hop music as well. It's just like as a natural evolution of that.
Yeah. Well, it's like um no, I'm blank.
And I think one other point to make on that is that hip hop music like in Australia has only gone massive in like the past 3 years.
Yeah.
And the last two of those years have been COVID. So like I feel like we haven't even seen it flourish. There's so much disconnect between like the cities as well, which I think that plays a massive part in it. Whereas like if we had people from Sydney and Melbourne having shows in either state, it would like
Mm.
make it so much more wholesome, but we just can't. So it feels like everything's happening separate so much right now.
Yeah, well, I mean, the little bit of time I got to spend in Sydney was like crazy because I met like so many people, and it's like so. I mean, I'm just constantly doing like back and forth comparisons in my head when every time I'm over there, but just like meeting all the different people, like going like all these different sessions. Very surreal place, Sydney.
Yeah, you got to work hard. The grind city. Um, let's focus back on you.
Yeah.
EP was written over a long period of time from like 2018. Why do you think these tracks all make sense together for now, or do they just not, and it just exists?
Um, I think the fact that they like fit together is a little bit of a fluke, but I believe that they do kind of fit together. Like as you know, inconsistent or kind of diverse as the EP is sonically, I think there is sort of like a straight line between them that kind of ties it together sonically. Could be like the production or the mixing. Um, but yeah, I don't know. It was just kind of like songs. Like I said, like I was saying earlier, like you know, the majority of like my time making music is me kind of putting on like a character or me like playing like a character to do a style. So this was kind of like I was trying to do like the first project is sort of like a statement. This is sort of the first time I'm actually making music that's me. Like the original, the EP was originally just going to be self-titled. It was just meant to be like DoloRRes, and obviously that was the point. In contrast to like my previous music, even though it's all been deleted. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's essentially what it was. So I was just trying to be like, I was trying to combine all these sounds together to just make like one official statement that this is like what my music sounds like going forward. Um, Sort of in reference to that sort of whole past discography. So I guess it's kind of like an inside joke statement for like the people who knew me back then.
Yeah. I feel like having worked on it for so long, like, did
Mm.
you know from the start, like, as in, was there a transition period where it's like, okay, I'm gonna write an EP that's actually me now, or did that come later, where you were just messing around and you heard the songs and it's like, hang on, this sort of sounds like me for once, or for the first time?
Um, yeah, I'm trying to remember. That was like 3 years. I reckon it was like around 2019 that I started just like experimenting with like different kinds of songwriting. Sort of around the time where my friend Adam told me to sort of delete all of my music to sort of because I was very disgruntled about my career slash music making goings on, and so that was his suggestion or his plan. And so yeah, basically just like scrapped all of like the previous stuff and just essentially just like worked on like making my voice sound good. Cause like my I was doing like some weird shit with my voice. My voice sounded really trash. I would literally just like record the same verse like 100 times and like change the inflection, like change how to like it's very hard to make an Australian accent sound good on wax. So like this is essentially what I was trying to do for a whole year was like work the intonation, try and like you know what I mean, and create sort of like a transatlantic equivalent of the Australian accent. You know what I mean? Like, you know, like in old movies from the 30s, it's like not British,
Yeah.
but it's not American. It's like in between that, like the equivalent of that, but for rapping in Australian. That's kind of what I was trying to do. And then eventually did that on, and then put out Fluffy Dice. And then from then on, just like experimented more. And this is kind of just what happened. Like originally that I think the EP was going to be like way more rappy and stuff. Like Fluffy Dice was meant to be on it. But then I guess I just started experimenting more and more. And then when it got time for the EP to be done, I'd written all these kind of stranger songs. And that's just what ended up on there.
Um, how do you feel about rapping in an accent? Do you feel like, not like in an accent? I'm not saying you're, you know, putting on like a New York Harlem accent, but do you think like it should be accept, because it's such a controversial thing. Like I think for a lot of people where it's like, oh yeah, own your accent. Like rappers, Aussie rappers need to stop sounding American or whatever. Do you see that it should be like a? I feel like it's easier for you though because there's a lot of vocal effects and stuff, so it's meant to sound different and like robotic. But I don't know. Do you see that as like, was that a big decision in your mind to like, you know, use an accent, or was it just like I need to get this vocal sounding right?
It used to be way more of a big, like this used to be very heated for me. Nowadays, not so much. I don't really, you know, don't really care as much. But yeah, no, I originally like when I first like started like rapping, like actually just like recording like bars over like MF Doom instrumentals for like 2 years. I was just doing like I basically just would do like I'd copy like MF Doom's voice and do whatever like his New York accent was. So I was doing that when I was like 15. And then I would just like change accents all the time to the point where like I changed accents so many times throughout like growing up and making music that when it actually came time to make music that was me, like not in someone else's character, I didn't know what my own voice sounded like when I was rapping because I'd spent so many years impersonating other voices that when it actually came time to make my own music, I didn't know what my voice sounded like. So that's why it took 2 years to find that again by like playing around and kind of just like mixing it. I know a lot of artists that like put a little bit of more of like an American inflection. But at the same time, I know a lot of people in Melbourne kind of like talk with a bit of an American inflection. Like, so it's really like, I don't think it's a point of contention. I think motherfuckers sound dope when they sound dope. And also just like, you know, the Rolling Stones have been putting on American accents since like a fucking however many decades ago. So I don't know.
You know,
I don't
well,
think it's that.
you know what blew
Okay.
my mind about
Sounds
accents and
cool.
singing? Um,
Yeah.
Dua Lipa, bro. I thought she
Mm.
was just like some LA girl for the longest time, but she's from like the UK, and it blew my
Oh,
mind.
really?
I heard her speak for the first time. I was like, wait a second, hang on a second. It's like you're the most LA looking human ever, an acting human ever. Like I don't know, just says about that's globalization, eh?
Yeah.
Just how it
And also
works.
I think like accents are like more of a thing in rap music than they are with like any other genre, just because I think um rap and hip hop has like a lot to do with like, you know, representing where you're from, you know, like things about like, you know, there's like that story, there's like a lot of like heritage, like thing, you know, like stories, hip hop, a lot of part of the culture. So if you're like putting on an accent that isn't where you're from, it's kind of like, you know, you're fake, you know,
Yeah,
it's kind of like it takes away from that image and that kind of respect or whatever. Um, you know, like look at Iggy Azalea
yeah,
to America. But like, I feel like nowadays it's not as much. You know what I think? You know what I mean? It's like things are slowly and slowly. There's less barriers and less borders in between genres, etc. Due to internet, obviously. So like things are just becoming less and less. You know, of a thing. There's less gatekeeping.
definitely. How long? And like this is proper open end question because there is a lot of vocal manipulation on the project.
Mm.
Um, how long did it take you to master that skill? Like, as in, because I've got no idea what it's like to be a rapper, just to sound good with an auto tune or a pitch, or how long were you comfortable with hearing yourself back like that, or is that an instant thing that you just?
I mean, like specifically like vocal effects or just recording my voice in general.
Let's do both. Let's go.
Well,
Let's go vocal effects firstly, just because it's.
I like essentially like my vocals. I've always like all my music has ever been up until like recently was just like instrumental, do a verse, maybe like double it, do like a chorus, maybe have like some reverb, etc., and then that's a song. And then I meet a Gung Menga essentially, who's like a fucking
Changes
he's like a
everything.
voice magician. This motherfucker's a genie. So like, yeah, if after meeting him and like going like being in the studio with him all the time and making music with him all the time and like, having this sort of like, musical partnership of a sense, like essentially like learning what that cunt can do with his, sorry, what he can do with his voice.
Sorry.
It's insane. So like, just like the way he just like like melodies and like I started like singing because of him. I like learned how to like like dynamics and like your voice is like the most insane instrument, and like, that's exactly like how I found that out. So after I met him, I just like tripled my my voice game like tenfold, just by like I don't know, just trying like 100 things. Like he does like the way he like we used to like do vocals is crazy. He would like do like 20 layers and we do them all in like a different voice. So do like a shouted one, then do like a growly one, then you do like a whisper one, and then like a really quiet one, then like a yell one, then you do a yelling one from like further away from the mic. So we do like 20 different takes, and then like, you know what I mean, just try everything, and see what sticks. And then like with this EP, after like now I've known him, for like a few years now. Just like I just keep getting more and more experimental. So I'm like trying to find pedals and stuff. I'm trying to like buy Sims. My setup is actually quite rudimentary, if you can see. This is like
This is it.
this is where most of it is done. There's like a couple guitars in the back. There's a mic, and that's literally it. I don't have any other instruments. So.
You know who does that really well with like the laid vocals and just really good vocal engineering? The Flatbush Zombies. Like you hear how Michi sounds on a record. It's like, wow.
Yeah,
It's just like they're up there. On meeting him, how important
yeah.
was that? Just not so much on the vocal front, but just meeting another artist and working with another artist. How important was that in you finding your sound throughout that, 2018, 2019, whatever period?
I reckon like extremely. I don't think my sound would sound like the same at all if I hadn't met the people that I've met, and obviously influenced me, taught me things, etc. But like it's like throughout high school, like up until like a few years ago, like all of this, like everything I'm telling you is all just like between 2018, 2019,
Yeah.
2020. It's a long kind of like story with different chapters. But yeah, like just in high school, I didn't know anyone who was really like, they were like music like people, but they were more like kind of VCA, like jazz nerds, etc. Like no one was actually making or rapping, more or less. So yeah, I just like didn't have any. Like the reason why I produce and write and record and do everything myself is not because like I generally wanted to. It's just like I grew up with no one else making music with me, so I just have to do everything myself, and I've gotten used to it. So that's kind of like a habit. Um, but I'd still love to like I'd love to be in a band. That'd be dope.
True, I can
never
definitely see
like
that
never
happening.
Yeah, like NERD style or some shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's like kind of so like after like a while I got to a point where like I just wanted friends who were making music, and so like I just like found through again like my friend Adam, who was friends with like all the boys in 3K, who were friends with someone else who then was friends with Ugly Mango. So like I just like started like meeting people through a phone tree. I like went out and like specifically wanted to meet people to like get part of the scene because I noticed there was like a scene, and so I just started to going to all the events. I went to like all the ones that are Boney, like Wednesdays. I went to like 30 Dirk Sunday nights, like all these like different events that all these cats were throwing from all across like the West and the East and all these different parts. And like that was dope. Like there was like 2 years in Melbourne where it was just like events every week, and it was just like people like from everywhere just like doing little shows.
I feel like
And I just like come to watch all of them and meet every person.
yeah. I feel like, and like we sort of touched on this, but I had like people in Sydney don't know this shit's happening. Like genuinely don't know any of this is happening. So it's so crazy. Like, why do you think? And we sort of touched on it, but I'd like your opinion. Why do you think there is such a disconnect? Do you feel between the cities, or maybe just like a disconnect between all the cool shit happening in Melbourne versus the attention that Sydney's getting at the moment?
Um, I mean, I'm not actually too sure. It kind of seems like one of those things that's like just always been there, and but no one really knows the reason why. But at the same time, Sydney is kind of like the Hollywood of the Australian industry, both in terms of I think film and especially music. So as much as like far fetched as the whole LA New York like comparison thing, there is like a bit of truth to it in terms of like an industry sense, because like all the money's in Sydney, all the big label like HQs are in Sydney, the PR, whatever, like the music
Yeah.
videos, artists, J headquarters, whatever the hell. My manager's in Sydney, my label's in Sydney, like. So I'm not surprised, but also like over there's a lot more air of like there's more competition. It's obviously like a bit more commercial. Um, I don't know. I guess it's just like a lot more competitive and a lot more like um, intense, maybe.
Yeah.
Whereas in Melbourne, I think it's like because there's not as much light, like there's not as much pressure on people to be like, active all the time and shining and like fucking sorry and like putting out music all the time and like being really active. Melbourne kind of has a dark cloud over it at all times. So like people kind of spend more time indoors. They're like, they're kind of experimenting more. They're kind of like they take more time in doing their things. I mean, this is like there's exceptions. I'm not saying like black and
Yeah.
white, but yeah, that's how I feel. And also in Melbourne, there's like a kind of like an idea, and this is like it was especially apparent when I was in Sydney for like during the tour. Is it like we're so like too cool? You know what I mean? Like, and I like do this all the time. Where there's like you don't want to be active, you don't want to like drop any music, you don't want to like promote yourself. We're all very like cool. We don't like being famous, or you know what I mean?
You
Like we
can,
all kind of like I feel like artists just like fall into that, and I mean like I do it all the time. It looks fucking dope. It looks dope, so like why not? That's my image. But like at
yeah,
the same time, it's like it's not going to push your career very forward. Yeah,
you can always tell a Melbourne Instagram versus Sydney Instagram.
yeah,
Like if they're
exactly.
just
It's like
posting like photo dumps in broken mirrors,
yeah,
like shit like that, or like mimosas at a share house brunch, like that's a Melbourne
yeah.
house.
Exactly. I mean, I like Melbourne like shit posting and Melbourne like Instagram shenanigans, etc. Like the way it's done. I feed into it. It's a vibe. I like
Same.
posting
Well,
weird
well, if you look at
stuff.
like if you look at like my Instagram or any of my friends' Instagrams, it's like that's the life we're about. Like I don't know. I feel like having two separate Instagrams for like the podcast and my personal
Mm,
is like so important because I can feel like I can just like flaunt Parry Talks, like, yeah, bro, like interviews every week with the best shit in the world. But then on like my personal, it's like me in trees taking pictures of like a bird and then
yeah.
like a swipe. It's like it's the most Melbourne thing. But on a more serious note, how much do you
Mm.
think that context of like no pressure, experiment, do what you got to do, be friends with whoever you want to be, and then whenever it's right, put the music out. How much do you think that benefited you as an artist? Like, did that context fit what you were working on and how you were working?
Yeah, it like benefits. I mean, it influences my whole sound because like the music, it's essentially like all like the music is Melbourne, the visuals, the marketing is Sydney. You know what I mean? So like my like all the creative side I get from here, and then all of like how to promote shit and how to like do all that stuff I get from my manager who's based in Sydney. So
Shout outs.
that's Michael. Um, so it's like here's what we need to do is we need to combine the creativity and like the weirdness of Melbourne with like the marketing and like the show offiness of Sydney. You combine that together, you got a career. You know what I'm saying? So
Man, you got to unlock.
you got to draw the middle ground. So like I like in Melbourne, like I spent 2 years like experimenting, going like all these sessions, just like having fun, which is like what you should be doing. But then at a certain point, you actually have to put that music out, and then that's when I look over and like look at Sydney. So all you got to do is just like have your mind in two different places.
Um, Perfect. Beautiful. I feel like so let's back to the music, back to this EP.
Yeah.
Um, when did it start to form as an EP? I can't imagine how many songs you scrapped throughout the period, but when did you have like four or five or two or three that made sense together? Which ones were they? And then when did that become, oh yeah, shit, this is an EP here. This is like looking nice.
Um, Man, this whole thing's a blur.
My life's a blur.
Literally. Okay, I'm trying to think of like track wise. The intro track, the last track, and DTR are all like from like 2019, and then the other ones from last year that I made in lockdown. Um, so I don't know, like the concept of like I've been wanting to put out an EP since like Fluffy Dice came out, or since like a little bit before then. So originally the plan was, and this is what sort of Adam, I guess, foretold in his prophecy or whatever that he was telling me, is just like make like just delete everything, make like 5 or 6 like good songs, like really like just like make 5 songs that are just like good, 5 or 6, whatever, a handful, and then put those out. And so the whole time I was just like working on these like 5 or 6 songs that I would like eventually put out. Like I wasn't originally going to do it as an EP. I might have just put them out as individual singles, but eventually I was like, I like EPs. I like being a project artist. I like album rollouts. So I was like,
Yeah.
fuck it. Um, and yeah, and so like originally Fluffy Dice was going to be on the EP, but then that song got too old and like it wasn't done in time. There was like a bunch of songs. It was meant to be 7 songs originally. Then like the intro got cut, and then like Michael maybe like might move some songs around and like change the order around, and that changes like the whole like way the EP feels. Like if you make like one song the intro and move things around, it makes everything sound completely different. Um, and yeah, just over time, I just like kept like making new songs, and then it got to a point where maybe like end of 2020 was like when like the EP was like done in terms of like the songs were like chosen, apart from like that last song that got taken out like more recently. But yeah, it was just like I don't know, just like eventually I just woke up and it was like it was done. I don't know.
It's beautiful. I'm
Yeah.
I'm like, I always think about the pressure on artists to put out projects. Like I'm definitely, and this, don't get me wrong, I'm definitely like a project listener. Like if I see a package together set of music, I do love that. But um why do you think you are such a project artist now? Like what, like, I don't know, it's a weird question, I know, but I feel like there's so much like moving, and look at someone like Lil Nas X, or like, and obviously very different artists, but you know, for someone as diverse a sound as you, do you think it's easier to process the music when it's like a bit everywhere in a good way in a project? Or do you think that, the singles are important as well? If you know what I'm getting at. I don't know, just
Yeah,
like,
yeah. I think obviously I think my that's true that my EP my music sounds like better. It makes more sense in like an album or an EP context, is because you're getting a fuller picture, and you kind of like it's kind of like bigger than the sum of its parts, because all the genres kind of come together. Because if you like were to just listen to one song, you might just think that I make punk music or something.
yeah.
But at the same time, it's like singles are dope, and also like I am like under, I feel like, as much pressure as any other artist to put out stuff. I gotta like, again, shouts out to my manager. I gotta post like videos. I gotta post like teasers. I gotta do stuff. I gotta post things on like a weekly basis at the right time of day. I gotta like I gotta do 4 more. No, I gotta do 4 more music videos before the end of the year, and we're in lockdown. And then like another EP next year. So like I have like a whole schedule of releases. It's only once we get the ball rolling. So like I had those like 2 or 3 years where like I didn't really exist uh, in the scene. Like I wasn't an established artist. Now that the like official kind of statement is here, now that the foot's on the ground, you can't really stop running, essentially. So it's kind of like it's gonna get faster and faster up until the point where I can like relax and disappear for like a couple of years.
Yeah. How, and like, obviously you have good management on board by the sounds of it, but
Hmm.
how was it for you? Because I feel like you're such an artist. How was it for you just making the transition and being like, I've got to market this music now, I've got to be a personality, I need to be the face of this? Was that a tough transition for you, or was that?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I don't like. I hate Instagram, like, first and foremost. Um, I was just like wasn't like I was kind of just like afraid to be on there. I wasn't really like I'm very sort of like closed off, or just like probably just wasn't in like a good mood for like several years. So yeah, I was just not like active at all, or didn't really do much. And then after a while, I just like got more like open, more assertive, etc. More like uh, I don't know, personality ish.
Personable.
So yeah, is that a word?
Yeah.
Respect. Um, yeah, so got more personable throughout the years, and I don't know, just like eventually got to the point where I just I'm kind of comfortable doing that, and also just like from being on stage as well, like kind of like in this last like tour, especially with like Jordan. Another thing I learned a lot from Jordan, that man's stage presence is insane. So like everything I know about like performing, I basically just like learned from him, because I've never really like played any proper shows up until this one that was meant to happen last night. Um,
Yeah.
so like I've been like, yeah, just like from being on stage with him all the time and seeing how he like controls an audience, the things he says in between songs, like the way you can like just like get the audience to do literally whatever you tell them to do. Like if you yell loud enough, it's insane. So yeah, like that was like amazing as well. And that's kind of where I pull like my like live performance inspiration from.
Beautiful. And on the EP, we'll talk about the music as well, because we've gone so holistic. DTR, my favorite song on the project. Just talk through the creation of the track, in what context, and
Okay.
what order did the arrangement come in for it?
Um, so
Oh, here we go.
oh, I think I was trying to learn. You know that song "I Gotta Find Peace of Mind," Lauryn Hill.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was trying to learn that like by ear, as I learn most things, and I think it was like the first two notes that she plays are like, "I gotta find peace of mind," right?
Yeah.
So those two chords, and then I added like a fourth note to the chord, which I don't know theory, so whatever this, and it becomes like a jazz chord. So it's like, and then it started with that loop, and then I made that really weird kind of like electro drum beat, and then just like I made that in like 2019, I think, in my dad's house in Rome. I was like visiting him, and he had like just like very like cheap those nylon string like student guitars in his bedroom. So I just recorded it on like my laptop speaker or like my phone speaker, and made that the beat. And then yeah, just like I just keep adding stuff. Like a lot of these songs like have been worked over like a year. So like I'll add like a section, and then like 2 months later I'll come back and add another section. It takes me like years to even write the lyrics. Um, DTR, like the vocal takes are like 200 vocal takes, like so many. Like I've scrapped and gone back and redone them so many times, because it was also like the first time I was like properly singing with auto tune. So like just like the amount of time it took to like get my vocals comfortable was just like hundreds of takes.
Do you
Um,
think that? Also, thanks for the Parry Talk exclusive. Like, I wish I had a soundboard for the first ever performance on Parry Talks. Um, do you think that perfectionist mindset of, like, I don't know if it is a perfectionist mindset, but that patient mindset of, I'm going to work on this song for a year, do you see that as a massive benefit for your work and for your music, or is that something you want to work on and get quicker at generally?
uh, I definitely want to get faster, because like I don't want to be like, man, these songs, I've heard these songs so many times. I mean, they slap. I haven't even performed them yet. So like I would love to just like get to the stage where like I can like work on an project and then like put it out a lot quicker. That's what I want the second EP to kind of be like. I want it to be like a bit of a faster turnaround, mostly because it's like half done anyway. But I mean, the reason why it took so long is not like so much that I was like, like obsessively like tinkering on like the sounds every day for 3 years. I had like live shit like on a regular basis. So like it was like 6 month, 4 month stints where I wasn't making music. That's why it took 3 years. So like if I could condense that into like 1 year, I could make a project that's just as good. Or I could even spend 4 years, go Frank Ocean, and work on nothing but music and live in hotels. And if I actually spent 4 years actually doing nothing but music, imagine how crazy the EP would have sounded if that was the case. But obviously, I can't wait another 3 years to put out an EP.
Yeah. But this is more of a, I think this is more of a comment than a question, because I'm going to gas
Yeah.
you up. Is, I think that you can really hear, I think why the EP is so special is that you can really hear the life experience through it. And it feels like, I know, it feels like a finished piece of work. You hear so many EPs that are just like, here are 4 songs I wrote in the past 6 months. But I feel like it definitely has that, extra layer, whether it is in the arrangements or the vocal delivery. There's just something about it that feels like older as a project. Not older in like a, it was written that long, but it feels like it's grown like with time, which I think is so
True.
special, and I think is super underrated in the way that music's consumed today.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
No
Um,
worries.
yeah, no, it's well, it's I mean like originally like some of the songs were meant to like transition into other. There was like so many kind of like behind the scenes ideas about like the flow of the project. Like I was saying earlier, like the order that the songs were in. I think like Overkill was meant to be like track 4, and then there was like another outro, and then Healy's was like at the bottom. I don't know. It was like a whole different combination. And also the intro track, that was one of like the last songs that came in because it was like a tie between that and like this sort of like other sort of NEID ripoff. It was kind of like but also kind of sounded like 99 Problems. So that would have been a very different intro to the EP. But eventually I just settled with this one. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm gonna finish the interview with like I'm gonna finish our part of the interview with like normal DoloRRes questions, and then we'll just talk hip hop for like 15 minutes because I just want your opinion on things because like, we're probably on the same page. But I think a good way to like I think one thing that's super underrated as well. There's a lot more to this project than just the music. You know, the visuals, the imagery, the title, the artwork. How important is it to you from a creative point of view that it is a complete product from all angles?
Just as important as the music. I mean, maybe not as like maybe like 1% less important, but like by a hair. So yeah, it's all part of like the thing. I don't know. I've just always been obsessed. I don't know, like you were saying about being a project artist. I just love albums. I don't know. It's just like it's cool. Like I love like just like all the like the story behind it. Like a lot of the times I get into artists less because of like the music per se, more about like the story behind them. You know what I mean? Like I only found out about like Nirvana like a year ago. I'm not even joking. Not found out, but like started listening to Nirvana, and it was mostly because I was like reading some story about like Courtney Love or something, and then like just like became obsessed with the idea, and then listened to the music. Keep in mind, I tried to listen to both Nirvana albums 2 years prior in 2018, and I hated both of them. But now that I had this sort of like backstory to the artist and this sort of lore, this world to kind of like stick my mind to, then I started liking the music. So that's what I do with my own music, and what a lot of artists do with their music is kind of world building. I'm just obsessed with like making characters because I used to make films before I made music. I used to write scripts and like stories, but I didn't have any friends who also made movies, and you need a crew. But you can just do it all on your own. So that's why I started making music.
That's so talk through just like who did you have on board for the creative stuff? Like I'm just open platform to just shout people out that helped you through the process.
First of all, Renee, who's my like director, best friend, etc., life, you know,
Coach.
yeah, yeah, a little bit of a coach to be honest. Yeah. But yeah, she like she does all like my like visual. She's doing the set design, stage design for the show. She helps me with costumes from time. She's also like a multifaceted, like she does like set design for other people. She's done costume design, directing, acting, etc. I do soundtracks for all of her movies all the time. I do like little like shoots for her. So we kind of like this like
Trade.
Yeah. We got like John or Joey. He's like my main like graphic designer. He did the cover art. Girls at Mosh, photographer that I work with. Like tons of just like I just have a huge team like Ryan and Jaden who are like the like sort of key grip and AC gaffer and also like DOPs. I do like videos with them all the time. Me and Renee also have a production company called Almanac, and so we're kind of like trying to build like in-house colorists and producers, etc. But also like we make like jeans and like etc. It's a whole empire conglomerate,
bro.
Like I
The empire.
People ask me like how I do all this crazy shit. Other people do it for me. Like yes,
yeah.
I don't have 7 hands.
But it takes an eye, I think. Like
yeah.
And like you don't just like people are like, oh yeah, just who you meet. But it's like it takes a long time to meet good people to get them to trust. So I think that's still a credit to you if you can get those creatives on board.
Yeah.
And like you don't even have to answer this question because you might not want to spoil anything. But how do you transition this music to the live stage? Do you see it as a band thing, or would you like it just to be you on stage, or do you not want to spoil anything for the show?
No, I'm trying to sell tickets here. So we got a full live band. We got keys, we got bass, saxophone, we got like all these like effects, backup singers, me, I believe, drums, obviously. I don't know. We're still working on the lineup. I mean, like if we were to play the show on like yesterday, I don't even know if it would have been ready. I'm still like making paper mache downstairs. So that's for the stage.
Oh,
So
I was
yeah,
gonna say, I was like, what?
I've got like so many, bro. I've got like so many. I've been like planning like a live show my entire life, like a proper one. So like I've got like pages of notes that I've been sort of trying to work in. But yeah, it's gonna be dope. Like because I've never played with like a full band before. Like we did one full band show once in 2019, but the sound like engineer took a ginormous L, and we didn't have sound for like the first 15 minutes of the show. So and
That's
also
sound
like
engineers, bro.
at the same time. So like this is, you know what I mean? This is like a whole, it's like I've never like this is all new to me. So I'm geeking all the time.
How important is the band for you? Because I feel like a lot of artists are like, not in a selfish way, are like, I just want to be on stage by myself and stuff like that. But is that band thing super like, is that it's like if I'm going to do a live show and a proper live show where we can spend the money on it, it needs to be a band, or is it not that hard a decision?
It's a lot of things. It's like because originally, the way like the story is back in high school, obviously because all the musicians I was with were all like jazz musicians. They were all live players, right? So when we'd play like school concerts, and when we play like shows at like the local pub, whatever, it'd always be with like live bands. But we're all really bad players, so it sounded awful. And like the entire, so I kind of grew up with this idea of like live, like my music live would never sound good, just because like obviously at the time as well I was just making like samples and like rapping over them, so you can't really recreate like a whole bunch of samples with like three like year nines. So um I kind of just grew up with this like thought in my head that like my music live would just sound terrible, and then like so I would just like kind of play with like DJ just with like a USB. And then once again, dare I say, Ogumengo, that guy plays with a live band, and like I heard him play with a live band, and it sounded amazing. And I'm like, oh wait, it can actually sound good. Someone can actually do it. And so then from that point onwards, I'm like, okay, I need to play with a band, and like I really just like committed to it, and actually got good players. And like we've only done one rehearsal, but it sounded so hectic. Like, and this is the first time we've ever played together. No one like knows these songs.
True, because you can't get rehearsals.
Yeah, I know. We've only done that's well. Like we had to postpone the show because we don't know the set. We don't know the song. How we can't play.
Yeah. And you've spoken about a lot, but you two did the Agung Mango, Genesis Owusu, stacked lineup.
Yeah.
Are there any memories or moments talking to those two, or just seeing what they did that stuck with you to this day that you haven't already mentioned?
I mean, just like traveling with Jordan, that's Mango's name, was like just dope. Like just like traveling with like a friend, like going all these places. He's like a big, um, I don't know. He's got like like a crazy imagination. He's like always he's like a cat, bro. Like he's like, he like gets so excited. He like wants to do like 100 things. It's like when we're on tour, you can imagine like we like go to like see all these different art galleries. We go and like we drive like from the bottom of Hobart to like the northern tip of Tasmania. We like rent a car, like do all this stuff, like find weed in every like city. You know what I mean? Like just like that kind of energy is dope. So like I kind of like that lifestyle really just like kind of like fuels like I imagine his creativity, because like that's kind of like how his brain works. That's why he
Definitely.
like makes like, music. So like being in that headspace was like kind of just dope. Um, and also just like the way like Genesis's whole kind of like backstage and his sort of whole process like before he has to go on stage, it's, because like I'm assuming he's playing like this character because it's a concept album. You know what I mean? The suit. So he's like backstage. He's like you see him putting his bandages on and like all these like you know what I mean? It's so crazy. Like the lights are dim. Like this whole, it's like it looks like a movie. I'm just like kind of getting out of people's way, just like watching, and it's like him and like the goons walking on. It's crazy, and like seeing that like 20 times in a row.
Yeah.
Oh, the show never get. I watched that guy's set all the way through like 7 times, and it never got old. I've never seen a live set as good as his. I swear to God.
Is
And
he
I've seen
the
like and he only had a DJ desk.
yeah? Is he the GOAT Australian artist right now? Maybe not the GOAT Australian artist right now, but he's the
I
best, right?
think
Oh, I'm saying he's the best.
I'm trying to think of other Australian artists, like because there's also ones that aren't in Australia. I think he might be like TBH. Just like I don't know, like I like out of this generation, the person who's like coming up out of the scene, I reckon he's Australia's greatest export,
Yeah.
and he is an export because he was meant to play shows in America. I don't know if this is still happening, but like you know what I mean. Like he's Like this album really like blew him up.
He's
So
there.
he's a
Donda.
trailblazer. He's a
Wait,
trailblazer.
Donda. Is it dropping?
Um, no.
No. Do you want it to drop?
I'm expecting the live versions and then just have like a catalog that I can revisit.
Yeah,
I
true.
already
Okay.
prefer versions than the second version. So
The first version of Hurricane is the goat.
yeah, with the vocoder. Exactly.
Yeah. um. Oh, how do we even open this conversation now? um.
Yeah,
No, who like, who's on your Mount Rushmore? Who are the people that, coming up, through your youth and through adolescence really shaped your taste in both rock music, punk music, hip hop? Who are those people that are like, yeah, they changed everything for me from a fan perspective?
wow. I'm gonna slip up. Uh, I guess like if I'm trying to like go back to like early, like all the like artists like my mom would show, like the music my mom would listen to, because like I kind of there's a sort of weird delineation with how I'd look back, where there's like a point in time where like there was music that I was listening to like as a person, and then there was like as it's like a consumer, and then there's music I was listening to as like a musician. You know what I mean? There was like a switch
Mm.
as to like I delineate like how I listen to music now. It's not how I used to listen to music. You know what I mean? I can't really avoid thinking about this kind of stuff. So the music I like grew up with kind of feels like distant to me. Like it's, but like at the same time, like it doesn't influence like my music, but like it kind of does, but like it didn't at the time. Anyway, Massive Attack, Black Eyed Peas, David Bowie, Brian Eno, Talking Heads, Philip Glass. I used to play like a lot of like classical piano, like just like when I was like a little child, just like messing around. Um, I don't know, like MF Doom, obviously Tyler. Growing up, he changed like that's the first CD I ever bought was the Wolf. It was in the dollar bin at JB Hi-Fi. Um, so I bought
No,
that,
just
like
kidding.
listened to that, and then I was like, wow, no way, you can like make music that sounds like this. And then that's when I started making music from that album. I still have it on CD actually. I wonder if surely where is it? Here it is. This thing is very old.
It's a
There
beat.
you go. No,
Beautiful.
actually, I took decent care of it. I think there was a poster in it, but yeah, this
I
is
feel
this.
like
This.
I feel like my Wolf CD's a plastic cover. I got
Really,
rewarded.
this is like. Oh, I also got it on vinyl with the pink, like the bright pink.
Yeah.
Uh,
We're the same person.
yeah, I noticed your poster, mate.
Yeah, there's like a whole, I don't know if I can show you. Wait.
Ah, you got a painting? No shit. Wow.
There are levels.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like I'm assuming Pharrell, like what Pharrell did to Tyler, I'm guessing Tyler does to me. You know what I mean? It's kind of like a weird like chain. And what I'm assuming Marvin Gaye and like Stereolab did to Pharrell, and the chain goes on. It's really interesting to like notice like change of like generational influence
Yeah.
and like how it's
But the
like
thing
almost like
is,
looking at a tree, like a family tree.
well, like a lot of indie artists now, or like in like people in your lane, I don't want to put a category on it.
Yeah.
Because of that Tyler the Creator thing, it's like
Yeah.
everyone just making music like the Neptunes, which is like
Yeah.
a really good thing, like an incredible thing because they're the goats. But like it's funny how like so many people that listen to Tyler don't understand how derivative it is. And I'm not criticizing Tyler for that,
Yeah.
but like it's people like that's just his fan base though. Like I
Yeah,
can't
but
even
that's
like
kind of like I kind of love how like derivative like music like all I think like most music, my music is definitely derivative. Um, the amount of samples that probably weren't cleared, wink wink. But I'm like
try snitching on yourself. Law and
um
order.
literally. But like I think yeah, there's not really like um. Wait, what were you just talking about?
I was just saying how Tyler's music's so derivative, and that's a good thing. It's not like a criticism at all.
Yeah, exactly. Like derivativeness is like the amount of like Tyler's music that like sounds like so much like Pharrell, and like when I because like I only like I listened to Tyler before I listened to Pharrell. I first
Same.
started listening from like 2018, 2019, and you go back and like listen to it, and like it's like all these things click, and like it's so dope to like figure out how people do it. And because like the people like all, you know, if the greats are doing it, then that means you can do it. Everyone's stealing, everyone's happy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like LCD Sound System is basically a cover band. Doesn't mean they're not a good, doesn't mean they don't make good music,
Yeah.
but like literally I'm like, I could like pick out like 10 of their songs that are literally like exactly the same as like another song that's like from the 70s or 80s punk rock. If you listen to North American Scum and then put on Homo Sapiens by, I think it's Heaven 17 or something, they're literally the exact same song. And
Well,
there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
He's got taste, and he grew up in like an era, because the man's 50. He made music in like 2010s, where all the people who were pulling inspiration from that generation were all from like the 80s and 90s. This guy's from the 70s, and so he was pulling from like a whole nother generation of music. That's why he like blew up so much, because no one else was like making that style of music, just because he was old and he happened to start doing stuff late. Right.
Yeah, I reflect that with my own taste as well, because like as much as I do love experimental music, and especially in the electronic side of things, like you do want it to wig you out a bit. But like with my hip hop listening, it's like I'm not always trying to listen to people making this weirdly unique. Like my favorite music is all the Griselda stuff and like Earl and Mike and stuff. They're just rapping over like loops. Like there's nothing like different. It's like keep doing that and like never change, never grow as an artist, please. Just loops. And like, yeah, so I think
Yeah, I like this like a lot of minimalism in hip hop.
yeah. But then you've done the whole, you know what? Stuff the boundaries, am I right?
No, but that's the thing. I kind of like, I want my music over time to like get more. I want to like make simpler music. I don't want to like have like 1,000 instruments going on. As crazy as it sounds, like I kind of really respect like simplicity, and I want to like learn how to like write proper songs. I want to like learn chord structures. I want to like make like Marvin Gaye music. I want to make like Stevie Wonder like songs. Like
Yeah,
you know, like that Silk Sonic stuff that's coming out as well. That stuff is crazy.
it's so good.
Changes and stuff. I want to do all that kind of stuff, and I also want to just like, I want to achieve like 808s and heartbreaks, like level minimalism. You know what I mean? Just like, because if a song's good, you can play it on a guitar and it's still a good song if you take
Yeah,
away all of the effects. So that's the level I'm trying to achieve at the moment. Like, because I don't know what chords are, I have to rely a lot on my like weirdness to kind of, you know, boost it up. And it sounds amazing, but when I take all that away, I want it to be crazy, and that'll be, I don't know, at some point down the line. But that's the goal. At the moment, it sounds like an explosion.
beautiful. DoloRRes, we've been chatting for an hour, just about. Who would have thought?
Yeah.
It's flown. But last two questions.
Yeah.
You wake up in the morning, you know, probably woke up a bit too late. You're not going to make yourself lunch because it's that sort of day. You're going to go get takeaway. You can go as grubby as you want, grubby as possible.
Yeah.
Where are you heading? What's the go?
Like a specific place.
It can be a specific place, or it can be a genre of food.
You know what? I mean, just like right now, for some reason, I really want to go. There's like an imitation 50s diner up in, I believe, Reservoir, next to the drive-in. It's called Misty's. I believe they don't exist anymore. They're closed down. But you go there. I think you spend $40. You get the university bucket, which is a bucket with 4 ribs. You get chips, like 3 hot dogs, fried chicken, a milkshake, and like, I don't know, 7 other things that I forget, and that would be crazy. So,
Good answer.
but they don't exist anymore. It's in my mind.
And then,
I'll probably just eat.
last question. We asked this to
Yeah.
everybody. Who should we have on the podcast? Who deserves their story told? Who deserves to be grilled by me? Or who deserves to become my friend?
Get have you had Mango on here?
No.
No, get him on here. Come on.
It's simple.
He's putting on. He's putting on.
Yeah, definitely. 100%. Just when the
Like,
timing's right.
You have to him. Like,
Okay, sweet.
makes so much sense.
Beautiful. That makes my life really easy. We can clip this. We can send it to him. Tag you on Instagram. Parry Talks, episode 52. Australia's No Jumper, 2016. Don't quote me on that. Man, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Peace. Have a good day.